let's dive right into it. Did you know that obesity rates in Australia have skyrocketed from 24.4% in 2007-08 to, get this, over 31% in 2022-23? I mean, these numbers.
31%. That's nearly a third of the adult population. And what's even more alarming is that severe obesity has doubled in that same time frame.
Doubled? That's insane. And it's not just the numbers themselves, the differences based on where we live, on gender, on income levels. It's staggering.
Right. For example, men are more likely to be overweight compared to women, about 38.6% compared to 29.6%. But when it comes to obesity specifically, the gap narrows a lot.
Exactly. And then there's the geography. Australians in regional areas or remote places experience higher rates of obesity, up to 70.3% compared to just 64% in cities. That's significant, Ethan.
It really is. And it's not just a city versus country divide. Socioeconomic disparities play a massive role as well. 72% of people in the lowest income areas live with overweight or obesity, compared to 62% in the higher income areas. That's a 10% difference based entirely on financial strata.
Which is heartbreaking, because those same communities often have less access to healthy food options or safe spaces to exercise. It's structural, not just personal choice.
100%. When I visited a rural town last year, it struck me. There were very few healthy food options available in the local stores, and it wasn't just availability. Cost was a major barrier. Fresh produce was expensive compared to ultra-processed foods, which dominated the shelves.
And that's exactly my point, Ethan. No fresh fruit, no affordable veggies. Of course people turn to processed foods. They've got no other option. It's not exactly fair to blame individuals in that situation.
Absolutely. These dynamics are reflective of larger issues, not just in Australia, but globally. Did you know the World Obesity Federation predicts that by 2035, almost half, 47%, of Australian adults will be living with obesity?
Half? That's bonkers. And globally too. What was it? Over 1.5 billion adults by the same year.
Correct. From 800 million in 2020 to 1.5 billion in just 15 years. It's a staggering trajectory. And I think it demonstrates
how urgent this crisis really is. It's a health system. No, wait. It's a public health time bomb. And the ripple effects of this
are felt everywhere, from increased disease burden like diabetes, cardiovascular conditions, cancers, to rising healthcare costs. And it's only growing.
And that's why it's not enough to just talk about body weight or BMI. Ethan, we've got to look beyond that. Let's break down those limitations next. So, Ethan, you mentioned looking beyond traditional measures like body weight or BMI. Don't you think BMI in particular oversimplifies what is such a complex issue? I mean, is it really as useful as everyone thinks?
You're absolutely right. While BMI has its uses, it's far from a perfect measure. It doesn't differentiate between fat and muscle mass, nor does it tell us anything about where fat is distributed. And that's crucial, isn't it?
Exactly. Keyword, distribution. Peripheral fat? Not as concerning. But visceral fat, that's the troublemaker. This is the fat that wraps around your organs, ramps up inflammation. You name it.
Right, Yenna. Visceral fat is highly metabolically active, and it's closely linked to conditions like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. It secretes inflammatory cytokines and hormones, all of which disrupt insulin sensitivity.
And don't forget ectopic fat. Fat in places it just shouldn't be, like your liver or even your pancreas. And let's not forget about NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
A good reminder. NAFLD is becoming increasingly common, and it's directly tied to metabolic dysfunction, or what you often call diabesity, right?
Yes, diabesity. It's such a powerful term, isn't it? So many students tell me it really drives home how intrinsically linked obesity and type 2 diabetes are. They're not just coexisting, they're feeding into each other.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is how even modest weight reductions, just 5 to 10%, can lead to significant improvements in glycemic control in people with type 2 diabetes. It's an area where interventions really matter.
But that's just it. BMI doesn't tell us any of this. It doesn't flag visceral or ectopic fat, doesn't adjust for ethnicity, even misses people with normal BMI who might have high-risk fat distribution.
That's where measures like waist circumference and waist hip ratio are so useful. Studies show they're better predictors of chronic disease risk, especially for cardiometabolic conditions. A larger waist is often a red flag for hidden metabolic risks.
Totally. And waist-hip ratio, even better for understanding fat distribution. But measurement inconsistencies do crop up. Don't you think that's something we need to address in clinical practice?
Agreed. Consistent protocols for measurement are essential. But the real game changer would be recognizing that obesity isn't just cosmetic. It's about what's happening inside, metabolically.
Exactly. It's not about shaming weight. It's about saving lives and managing risks. I can't stress enough how important this understanding is for tomorrow's healthcare professionals. And on that note,
there are lifestyle factors at play that we absolutely need to talk about. Stress, diet, sedentary behaviours, they're all adding fuel to the fire. Let's unpack those next.
All right, Ethan. So we've highlighted key lifestyle factors like stress, diet, and inactivity that worsen metabolic risks. Now let's bring it full circle. We've tackled the stats, talked about the risks, but what about solutions? What are we as healthcare professionals doing to turn the tide?
Great question. First and foremost, lifestyle interventions remain at the forefront, despite their challenges. Stress management, better diet quality, and increasing activity levels are key pieces of the puzzle.
Stress. Don't even get me started. It's such a sneaky driver of obesity. Elevated cortisol ramps up appetite, pushes people toward comfort foods, and bam, central adiposity climbs.
Absolutely. And it's not just stress, it's systemic. Sleep deprivation, for instance, disrupts hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin. People sleep less, they eat more, and their food choices tend to be, well, less than ideal.
And then there's the modern diet. Fast food, ultra-processed meals, sugar, refined carbs. These hyperpalatable foods override natural appetite controls. It's like our biology isn't built for the modern food environment.
Spot on. And sedentary behaviour adds another layer. Long sitting hours, especially in front of screens, are negatively impacting metabolism. Even meeting physical activity guidelines doesn't fully counteract the effects of being sedentary all day.
Which is why getting people moving is key. Walks, resistance training, aerobics, it all adds up. I've read studies where combining resistance and aerobic exercise actually doubled the metabolic benefits, right?
Yes, you're right. Studies consistently show that combined approaches are more effective for improving glycemic control and body composition. And don't underestimate the value of incremental changes. Just moving more can have a huge impact.
And diet. Something like intermittent fasting. It's gaining traction, isn't it? Those longer gaps between meals can trigger fat burning and improved insulin sensitivity. Has the research caught up with the hype, though?
It has, to an extent. Intermittent fasting and low-carbohydrate approaches like ketogenic diets have shown some impressive results, particularly for glycemic control. But they're not without caveats. Not everyone can adhere to these long-term.
And that's where pharmacology comes in, right? GLP-1 agonists, tirzepatide, these sound like absolute game changers. What stood out to you from that conference you mentioned?
Oh, the potential is staggering. GLP-1 receptor agonists like semaglutide are revolutionizing how we treat obesity and type 2 diabetes. The combination of appetite suppression, improved glycemic control, and even reduced cardiovascular risks, all in one medication. Clinical trials have shown semaglutide can produce weight loss of nearly 15% in some patients.
15%. Wow. And tirzepatide, dual receptor activation, right? That one's tracking at what? 20% reduction or beyond?
That's correct. Tirzepatide is outperforming expectations, showing over 20% weight loss in some trials. It's redefining what we can achieve with pharmacological support. But, and you'll love this, it also highlights the need for system-wide changes. These drugs are tools, not standalone solutions.
Exactly. It's about combining strategies, lifestyle, pharmacology, policy changes to tackle this head on. And for future clinicians out there, the takeaway is clear. Don't settle for half measures, right? We have to address the full picture, the physiological, social, and systemic drivers.
Couldn't agree more, Yenna. Obesity isn't just a number on a scale. It's a complex, multi-layered issue. Tackling it requires compassion, competence, and a commitment to long-term, evidence-based action.
And that's where we leave it today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, this is work we all have a stake in. Stay informed, stay inspired.
Until next time, take care and let's keep pushing forward.